I'd like to introduce Stacey Dawes now. Stacey has a Bachelor of Social Work from the University of Windsor. She is a caregiver engagement lead at Family Caregivers of BC. Stacey grew up in a family of dedicated caregivers who all contributed to the health and well-being of a family member who suffered neurological damage. It is through this exposure that she chose a career in social work. Early in her career, she worked with children, parents, and foster parents through Child Protective Services. This provided a deeper understanding of the complexities of the family dynamic and the importance of support programs and resources. Stacey, I will pass it over to you now. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Alana. And although I can't see any of your faces right now, I just want to say hi. I also worked at Parkinson's Society BC for over 10 years. So I assume that there's probably going to be some familiar faces out there. So I'm just going to say hi to those that I've interacted with in my past role. So today I'm going to be talking about taking care of yourself, self-compassion, which is just so important for you as a caregiver. But before we get started in the theme of self-compassion, I thought that we would be able to do a little bit of a grounding, breathing, mindfulness exercise. So in that, I invite you to take a nice seat, maybe lie down if you have something available to you. Ground both of your feet. Close your eyes. Place your hands softly in your lap. Sit upright in a way that feels dignified, but not stiff. Let your body feel a sense of being present and awake. Notice your mental activity and any thoughts that may be arising as you start to still your body. Notice any feelings or sensations that are present in your body right now. Become more aware of your current experience. Instead of pushing your thoughts, feelings, or sensations away, stay present with both the good and the bad, the positive or the negative. And you might find comfort in repeating internally, ah, there you are. This is how it is right now. Taking a moment to pause and notice your inner experience takes you out of automatic pilot. Next, I invite you to gather your focus and awareness on one point of focus, which is your breath. Gather your attention down into the movements of your belly, the rise and the fall of your breath. Spend a few moments paying attention to the rhythm of your breath, the movement of your stomach and chest as you take a big inhale and slow exhale. Breathe in and breathe out. Notice when your breath is moving in and when your breath is moving out. Bring your awareness to the movement in your belly. Use your breath as an anchor to keep you present. Stay aware of your breathing as you start to expand your field of awareness. Slowly extend your awareness outward to other parts of your body to get a more spacious awareness. As you start to get a sense of your body as a whole, notice any tightness or gripping in your shoulders, your neck, back, face, jaw. And then follow your breath as if your whole body is breathing. Breathe into all areas of your body, especially the areas that may be tight or holding. And nice and slowly start to open your eyes and return into your current space. Thank you, everyone, for sharing that moment with me. So let's get started. As Alana mentioned, my name is Stacey Dawes, and I'm the Caregiver Engagement Lead at Family Caregivers of BC. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that I am on. I'm extremely grateful to live on the traditional unceded territories of the Coquitlam, Musqueam, Squamish, Stylo, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. I'm thankful for their stewardship and their protection of the water and the earth, and for the generosity of their spirit with which they have shared some of their teachings. So today we're going to touch on a bunch of things regarding self-care and self-compassion, the importance of support in your caregiving role, reflection of your current level of self-care, self-compassion as a practice, support networks, dimensions of resilience, and your health approach. So who is Family Caregivers of BC? We're a nonprofit charity, a provincial nonprofit charity dedicated 100% to the well-being of family caregivers. We started 34 years ago in Victoria, and we were the first of its kind in Canada, and now one of 4 provincial organizations across the nation. We moved into a provincial organization since 2010, and the past 9 years as part of the Ministry of Health's Patients as Partners initiative. And our 3 pillars include caregiver support, education, and health and social sector engagement and collaboration. So within our 3 pillars under caregiver support, we offer our toll-free Monday through Friday caregiver support line. We have information referral and navigation. We do one-to-one caregiver coaching. We offer virtual and in-person peer support groups, in-person in Victoria, virtual province-wide. And we also do a lot of local pilots in the Victoria area and tests of change. Through our education and training, we provide online resources through our Caregiver Learning Center, webinars, workshops. We also do caregiver facilitator training to build capacity throughout this province for local community organizations, presentations. We have podcasts and blogs, and we have our monthly e-news as well as our quarterly newsletter. And through our collaboration and engagement pillar, we are working to integrate family and friend caregiver identification, awareness, referral, and inclusion through our caregiver-friendly health system improvement, our Caregiver RX initiative, and our caregiver support network capacity building. We participate in research, and we sit on steering committees for informing policy. So how big is caregiving? And I asked this question in knowing that caregiving is extremely big in your life right now. And you're not alone. 28% of BC's population are currently caregivers. Of that 28%, 25% of employed caregivers, 25% of the 28% are employed caregivers, and they spend up to 30 hours per week caring for their loved one. So employed caregivers are caregivers who juggle caregiving with paid employment. They report that caregiving has an impact on their work, including being late, having to leave early, missing work because of caregiving duties. And they also report turning down or did not pursue a job opportunity or promotion because of their caregiving responsibilities. So I like to use this graphic because it really identifies the amount of effort and space that you give to your caregiving role. So over 80% of care is provided by family and friend caregivers. The top of the iceberg represents what our society views in terms of care, so that formal delivery of health services through our health sectors. And the bottom represents the care provided by caregivers. Huge at 80%, but oftentimes invisible, below the surface, and unrecognized. So in the health systems world, caregiver distress is referred to as caregiver burden. So the extent to which caregivers perceived that caregiving has had an adverse effect on their emotional, social, financial, physical, and spiritual functioning. So here at FCBC, we acknowledge that caregiver distress and burden, challenges, and burnout is real. And this is on our support call line. We hear stories of caregivers that really struggle and face challenges in this role. So there are a number of factors that determine the level of stress that caregivers are under. For example, relationship to your care recipient, the medical condition being Parkinson's disease, the living location, rural versus urban, and attachment to system supports, what community supports are available to you. So in BC, 94% of people aged 65 and older live independently. 34% of family caregivers in BC are in distress currently. And caregiver distress is defined as primary caregivers who express feelings of anger, distress, depression, or any caregiver who is unable to continue their caregiving activities. So this is the third highest in Canada. And this rises to 54% when looking at clients, 57% when looking at clients who are receiving less than 1 hour per day of home support. It continues to be one of the deciding factors between many caregivers and seniors being able to remain safely in their own homes or needing to move into a long-term care facility. And these statistics are through the most recent report through our Office of the Seniors Advocate. We can do better home support services for BC seniors. And I invite you to go through their website and access this report for more information. So do any of these challenges of caregiving seem familiar to you? Overload, exhaustion, trying to do it all and not asking for help, not setting boundaries or saying no, complex family dynamics and changing roles, having those difficult conversations, lack of a support network and feeling isolated, overwhelming emotions, uncertainty, grief, loss, financial and legal concerns, and the one that we hear most frequently, navigating our healthcare system. And here are some signs that caregiver stress may be impacting you. There may be denial about the disease and the effects, anger, you're socially withdrawing, isolation, anxiety about the future, depression, exhaustion, you're not sleeping well, you're having these emotional reactions, lack of concentration, and health problems yourself. Caregivers speak about being on the edge of injury, depression, almost burnt out or burning out, needing a break, respite was often mentioned related to this. Caregivers share repeatedly that they're caregiving on top of a full-time job, on top of being a parent, on top of trying to have their own life, on top of just living their life. Caregivers oftentimes feel like they're on the outside of the care team, of society, feeling alone, feeling invisible, and they're in need of information and resources and supports and know-how. So some possible reasons for these themes is people not identifying as a caregiver. That's a hard step to identify and carry that title. Their focus is on their loved one on the care recipient. First time or only one offer support is often declined. I can do it all. The need for follow-up offers. So not all caregivers need the same support. They need different supports for different caregivers at different times. And we need to shift to valuing caregivers as partners in care in our healthcare system, including you in care plans, including you in the conversations. So why is self-care essential for family caregivers? Caregiving is dynamic and touches many aspects of your life. It starts and unfolds in unpredictable ways and often adds to an already busy life, usually without any room or space for more. So if you're attending this presentation, then chances are you are taking part in the marathon of caregiving. So what happens when your sprint turns into a marathon? As caregivers, you are often pushed to the boundaries. You're extending your energy, oftentimes beyond those boundaries, for too long and on an ongoing basis. So what if it feels like that marathon pace will never end? That hopelessness. It can be overwhelming. It's not usually something any of us anticipate, sign up for, or train for, but it's the new normal of our lives. So we're at a time in history where most of us will take part in the marathon of caregiving. And it isn't easy. It can burn you out. Experiencing some stress is a part of everyday life, but when these symptoms of stress persist, they can be extremely harmful for your health. So understanding how you feel is a first step of coping with stress. Some days it may feel like boot camp. Other days you expect things to be hard and you breeze right through them. It's unique to all families. It's likely that you'll experience changes in your relationships with your spouses or your partners, your siblings, children, and mostly the person that you're caring for. You can also expect some strong feelings to bubble up to the surface. So some questions that I would like you to consider today and moving forward. How is my current self-care? How resilient do I feel? What do I need for support? And where do I turn? Do you need emotional support for yourself? A community of support around you? Time to do activities that you enjoy? So self-care is any activity that creates a sense of comfort and well-being. It can have both short and long-term impacts. It can occur in various dimensions of health. It could be physical, mental, emotional, social, spiritual health. To truly care for yourself, it's important to acknowledge how you feel, to see and hear yourself in the situation, and to offer yourself some comfort that will meet your need. Sometimes your need will be met by a walk. Sometimes it's simply a rest or reading a book. Self-care can be calling a friend or saying no to a loud and busy social event. Only you know what activity will truly feel comforting for you. So it's important to note that self-care is not necessarily self-improvement. Although the activities of self-care can be beneficial and have positive effects on your health or your fitness, the goal of self-care is to meet your own needs and to feel better, to feel cared for, and to be more grounded. So let's touch on some self-care strategies like self-compassion, connection, personal supports, balance, resiliency, and some guidance on some next steps for an action plan. So Dr. Kristen Neff, world leading expert on self-compassion and author of book Self-Compassion. And her website is www.selfcompassion.org. She defines self-compassion is crucial for caregivers, not only because it helps us forgive ourselves for our inevitable mistakes, but also because it allows us to acknowledge and comfort ourselves for the difficulties of our caregiving role. Self-compassion leads to increased feelings of happiness, optimism, gratitude. It's linked to better coping and resilience in the face of the demanding life situations like caring for somebody else. For caregivers specifically, it's shown to lead to more satisfaction caring for someone and decreases the chance of burnout. This doesn't mean you won't face challenges, but you'll meet these challenges with empathy. In those times, you may say to yourself, this is hard right now. This is really tough. It's only natural that I'm feeling sad and stress. Self-compassion is crucial for caregivers, not only because it helps us forgive ourselves for these inevitable mistakes, but it allows us to acknowledge and comfort ourselves throughout the caregiving role. So self-kindness. When we make a mistake or fail in some way, we are more likely to beat ourselves up than to put that supportive arm around our shoulder. Why did I do that? I lost my cool. I should be more present. Self-kindness counters this tendency so that we are caring towards ourselves as we are towards others. Rather than being harshly critical when noticing our personal shortcomings, we are supportive and encouraging and aim to protect ourselves from harm. So the first step to self-kindness is acknowledging your pain or suffering. It can sound like, when I can provide a certain level of care, I cannot do everything by myself. All people have limitations. I recently read this quote by Brené Brown, researcher and author. Imperfections are not inadequacies. They are reminders that we are all in this together. A sense of interconnectedness is central to self-compassion. It's recognizing that all humans are flawed, works in progress, and that everyone fails, makes mistakes, and experiences hardships in life. Self-compassion honors the unavoidable fact that life entails suffering for everyone without exception. The pain I feel in difficult times is the same pain you feel in difficult times. The circumstances are different, the degree of pain is different, but the basic experience of human suffering is the same. I am human, I'm fallible, I'm going to make mistakes like everyone else. This is difficult, and anyone will be struggling with this. So moving on to mindfulness. It involves being aware of the moment-to-moment experience in a clear and balanced manner. It means being open to reality of the present moment, allowing our thoughts, emotions, and sensations to enter in without any resistance. So why is mindfulness a part of self-compassion? Because we need to be able to turn inward and acknowledge when we are suffering, to be with our pain long enough to respond with care and kindness. You stay and you recognize those sensations, much like we just did in our breathing exercise, and thoughts, but not stay too long with negative thoughts. This is the foundation to well-being. A belief is just a thought you continue to think. So what we mean by connecting is reaching out to other people, seeking support, sharing your stories, finding a sense of belonging. Caregiving brings up complex feelings. While caregivers love the person they're caring for, feelings like resentment, frustration, overwhelm are often common and quite understandable. Caregivers can be committed to caring while also feeling trapped and sometimes wanting to escape. Talking to someone about how you're feeling is essential to taking care of your emotional and mental health. Telling someone the truth about how caregiving is going can help you sustain your energy it takes to keep caregiving. So find someone you can be honest with who won't judge you, such as a trusted family member, a friend, a community support organization, a support group, a professional. Sharing the reality of your journey with someone can be a great release and helps you to be more gentle with yourself as you walk the complex and demanding path of caregiving. So you may make a list of the daily and weekly tasks that need to be done and ask the people in your life to commit to those, you're willing to let them do. It can be hard to let go of control, but sharing the care is fundamental to making your role sustainable for you and for your family. Contacting local community organizations that provide programs and services for family caregivers. Addressing the challenge and any feelings of guilt you may have when you reach out and ask for help. Both you and the person that you are caring for will benefit from being held by a community and having a network to rely on. Attending a support group. I know that Parkinson's Society has support groups specific for caregivers. The Brain Wellness Program out at UBC, they also have programs for caregivers. At FCBC, we do have support groups as well, specific for caregivers. So online and in-person support groups can be extremely helpful for those needing support and fellowship, and most importantly, validation. Attending a support group where you can share your concerns and receive that support from others in similar situations is invaluable. There are caregiver support groups all throughout BC, local community organizations, and I invite you to give us a call if you're looking for an in-person support group or accessing any of our virtual groups. So for support networks to really help, there needs to be that request. So putting yourself out there, not feeling like a burden, not trying to do it all, or offers from help from those around you. It's that acceptance of the offer, saying yes, letting go, having that open and honest discussion with those that are willing to support. Sharing updates, bringing them in on your care and your experience and how things are going with your care recipient. Following up to ensure if anything else is needed. Offers of more help. People are there, family, loved ones sometimes feel like they're on the outside or they don't want to have that conversation because it may trigger some emotions or feel like that this is a private situation that they don't want to ask questions about. So inviting people in makes them feel like they are part of your circle of care. And welcoming all the help that you can get from community organizations, family, friends, neighbors, affiliations to churches. Balancing the demands of caring for another while taking care of your own physical, mental, social, and emotional health is essential to making caregiving sustainable. But that's easier said than done. It often gets squeezed into an already busy life, including the day-to-day responsibilities of family life, work, maintaining a home. Many caregivers take on this new role without letting go of anything else. So make your personal health a priority. Maintaining personal wellness is just as important as anything you do for someone else. Think of the possible effect of neglecting to take care of yourself. And think at how it's going to affect the person that you're caring for. If you get sick, who will take care of the two of you? It's not selfish to focus on yourself. It's essential. George Eamon Villiant is an American psychiatrist and professor at Harvard Medical School and director of research for the Department of Psychiatry. He is one of the pioneers in the study of adult development with a strong interest in resiliency. Resilience is one way to help decrease that caregiver burden. So that high number that I gave you earlier on in this presentation, resilience is what we need to bring into our lives right now. It helps make the harder parts of caregiving more doable. Building that resilience helps caregivers sustain their health and their capacity to care, both for themselves and for others. And when caregivers feel resilient, it expands their capacity to move through those difficult situations that are part of your caring role and reduces your susceptibility to stress. So resilience is just not one thing. It's dynamic. So let's reflect how we adapt in a healthy way to stress. What is our ability to recover or bounce back from a difficult situation? What's our capacity to grow from an experience or bouncing forward? So we're not born with being resilient. It's a learned skill. It's a practice. It varies over time as demands, circumstances, levels of maturities change. It can be developed through behavior, thoughts, and actions. And similar to caregiving being unique to the individual, so are approaches to building resiliency. So I'd like to discuss some factors of resilience, some ways that we can try to retrain our brain to becoming a more resilient person. So cultivating a positive outlook, easier said than done, right? So not sidestepping difficult emotions or situations of caregiving, that being with the emotion, staying there, acknowledging, feeling, moving past. Accepting life is imperfect and not staying too long with those difficult thoughts. Reframe your stressful experiences. Acknowledge, recognize, say it out loud. Caregiving is highly stressful at times. This is really tough. Learning how to interpret and respond to those stressors. So being with your body, that somatic feeling. How do you feel when you are feeling stress? Altering how you perceive an event. Create a network of connections. So having those strong supports and connections with family and friends who are supporting and caring. And having relationships with organizations like Parkinson's Society, like the Brain Wellness Program, like us, Family Caregivers of BC, to boost your emotional health. I like this one. Nurturing your inner superhero, because that's who you are. You are a superhero. This is a selfless role that you're in, being a caregiver, and that needs to be acknowledged. So, and with that, we need to hold ourselves with self-compassion, believe in your abilities, identifying and knowing your strengths, and bouncing back from that stress and challenging situations. Make friends with reality. Change is part of caregiving. Good days, good hours, bad hours, sleepless nights. Being a caregiver was not in most people's life plan. And shifting expectations and perspectives. But stick with your moral compass points, not losing sight of where you want to go. Strengthening your core beliefs and finding support in your spiritual beliefs. You're taking care of someone else and also taking care of yourself. Prioritizing your physical well-being. So move your body regularly to cleanse your mind of stress. It could be some activities that are through Parkinson's Society BC through their exercise program. It could be going outside and being present in this beautiful weather that we're having right now, noticing the sun on the leaves, picking up a rock and feeling it, smelling a flower as you walk by. Physical activity influences improved mood, cognition, emotional responses, and immunity. And creating meaning in your caregiver role. So finding a positive meaning, even if it is small, in your role adds to your positive overall health. Maybe feeling appreciation to be a part of somebody's life and in those vulnerable moments. Have a sense of purpose in your caregiving role. Strengthen your relationship with the care recipient. And take pride in your skills and the value in your role. So I just want to take a couple of minutes for us to just have a mindful space of checking in with yourself on how resilient do you feel. And I'll just give you a minute to think that through. So the needs of your loved one, the care recipient, are often extremely great and are usually the priority in the minds of the people on the care team, such as doctors and nurses and you, the caregiver. But what about your needs? When was the last time somebody asked you what you needed? Since so much of caregiving requires that your own needs to be placed on the back burner, it's important for you to be able to identify and advocate for your own needs. Caregiving inevitably involves effort and self-sacrifice. But when you consistently neglect your own needs, you risk developing your own health or developing or exacerbating your own health issues. So once again, easy to say, tougher to do, let alone regularly. It's big, it's hard, it's heavy, it's consuming. So according to self-management research, the key to a goal-setting action plan is focusing on one step at a time or a short-term action that can be accomplished in just 1 week, just focusing on 1 week. And maybe it might even be one day. Maybe it's just this hour. Keeping it short and very easy to reach helps build that confidence within yourself and success in reaching those larger goals. Focusing on smaller steps towards a bigger goal in the future. Aiming to develop a plan to maintain or increase your well-being. So what stressors would you like to reduce? And what source of energy would you like more of in your life right now? And I know that we're going to be going into questions soon. So this is a discussion that we can have if you're open to that once we once we open it up to the room. And I would like to point out that here at Family Caregivers of BC, this is something, a brief action plan is something that our staff, our caregiver support line staff, do frequently with caregivers, developing a brief action plan. And then our caregiver coaching is also available for help with, for those complex cases. The most frequent one we get is navigating the healthcare system. And I know at Parkinson's Society BC, they also have counseling available for caregivers. So I invite you to seek out those services and provide yourself that self-compassion and to take those small steps into becoming more resilient in your role. But before we get into opening up for questions and conversation, I just want you, one last thing I'm going to ask of you is, what small action can you do this week? And what, thinking about that action, consider, what are you going to do? How much will you do? When will you do it? And how often will you do it? Getting very specific on those next steps. So today we covered a great deal of information, but if you can remember only one thing, I want you to remember that here at Family Caregivers of BC, we are a valuable resource and we have lots of information to help you along the way. So please contact us early or many times in your caregiver journey. And that's it. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your investment in this webinar, carving out this time and space for yourself, as well as your attention and the invaluable investment in your caregiving role and into our society.